Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. We will start within 5 minutes. We will let some participants to join within these 5 minutes, and then we will start. So I want to welcome you from Edinburgh, UK. So my name is Sudipa Sarker. I think you all who have registered kind of got a mail from me. So today we will look into understanding the higher education landscape in the US. The reason for actually organizing this webinar was that the previous webinar that we have created, which was on UK and Europe, which got a huge response from the participants. So that's why we thought that probably it would be good to have a webinar on the US as well. Because, of course, the higher education landscape in the Europe and UK is kind of shrinking. So probably in US, you will find the opportunities that probably are not available in the UK sector. So today we will kind of discuss on the US sector. So together here, I have three actually speakers for today. The first one is Abdur Rahman. He's an assistant professor now in the College of Engineering and Science in Louisiana Tech University. And then we have also Ashfaq Iftakher. He's a senior AI engineer in Aspen Technology. And then we have Dr. Nurul Islam, and he's also an assistant professor of finance in Sorel College of Business in Troy University. So our speaker will introduce themselves. So let's kind of start the webinar as the participants have started to join as well. So what to expect from this webinar? So we will kind of introduce ourselves, and we will also give you a chance to introduce yourself. And then we will say a bit about requirements, when to start your higher education journey, how to proceed, what to do after you actually is accepted in a higher education institute, and then what are the funding options available, the visa processes, and the preparation for going or taking to the journey to the destination. And then we will have a Q&A session. So what we intend actually to kind of complete this overall session within, or the speaker session within 1 hour limit. And then we will have at least 30 minutes for question and answer session. So this question and answer session, normally you can ask actually question in three ways. One is that raise your hand in the Zoom button. And then you can also type the questions in the chat box, or you can use the Q&A section that is available in the Zoom as well. So the purpose of using also Q&A section, you can ask the question anonymously. There are several questions that you have already asked us, and we kind of categorize it into different categories. So there were questions about scholarships and funding. There were questions about kind of how to build your profile. There are questions about also what kind of study options that are available, different kinds of career prospect before and after also joining the higher education institute. And then, of course, what are the test and visa requirements? Those questions are available as well. So the questions that we will answer are kind of this, okay, like for example, okay, what is the most effective approach to secure RA, GA, TA positions in the current US context? Then can you provide an overview of the funding scenario and process for graduate studies in the US? And then how can someone become more competitive candidate compared to students from top global universities? So these are the questions that the speakers will reflect on in their presentation. But the question that we actually cannot answer are like this, like what are the career prospect after completing a PhD and then moving to Saudi Arabia. So we are not actually talking about other countries. We are only talking about US. So these are the questions that we probably will not be able to answer. And will I get a job immediately after my higher education? This is also very hard to tell because it depends on your PhD, it depends on the institution that you graduated from, it depends on the context in that time. So these are the questions nobody can guarantee you actually whether you will get a job immediately after your higher education. So I want to give you this opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to us. So here is a website called menti.com. If you go to the website and type in the code, then you will see kind of option to kind of introduce yourself to us. So what I want you to do in this slide is to kind of write your name, write where are you joining from this webinar, and then also tell us why you want to kind of go abroad or what is your motivation for joining this session. So if you can take some time to introduce yourself to us, that would be great. And I think this is also provided in the chat. So if you cannot kind of type in from here, just copy paste the information from the chat and then you can actually introduce yourself to us. So just I want to give a bit of background of myself. So my name is Sudipa, as I told you before. So I graduated in 2005 from Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology. But then from then to now, I have kind of 20 years of career. So the the beginning of my career, I actually worked in industries. But then since 2009, I joined academia and I was an academic in Buet as well. Bangladesh University of Engineering Technology. And then for my studies and work purposes, I kind of moved across 6 different countries. And now currently I am in the UK and in the University of Strathclyde. And the department that I am working in is design, manufacturing, and engineering management. Though I have a kind of engineering degree, but I also moved or worked in some of the business schools as well in my career. But the experience that I have in higher education are mostly in Europe and now in UK. So that's why I think these three speakers today comes in, who are mostly, who are all of them are graduated from US and then also now doing a job in the US. So let us go to the first speaker then. So over to you, Abdur.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. Well, hello everyone. My name is Abdur Rahman, and I completed my Bachelor of Science from Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology back in 2018. And then I joined Lanka Bangla Finance as a management trainee officer. So I worked in this company from a position of MTO and started as a acting branch manager in 2021. Then I decided I would go for higher studies. Then I moved to Mississippi State University. I got my master's from there from 2021 to 2024. And also I was doing my PhD concurrently. So I got my master's and PhD both in 4 years. In 2025, I completed my PhD. Then after that, this year, basically, I joined Louisiana Tech University as a tenure track assistant professor. Well, yeah, that's all from my educational and job journey. Now, Ashfaq Iftakher.
Hi everyone. So I'm just gonna give a brief introduction about myself. So I'm Ashfaq Iftakher. So like Abdur Rahman, I also did my BSc from Buet. So we joined in 2014 and graduated in 2018. For my case, after graduation, I just completed one more master's degree also from Buet. And after that, I came to A&M for the PhD. So I started at the start of 2021, and I just graduated like 2 months ago. And right after graduation, I am now working as a senior AI engineer at Aspen Tech. So that is pretty much the journey. So yeah, over to the next speaker. I think
Limon,
you're muted.
you need to, yeah, unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Nurul Islam. I completed my BBA and MBA in finance from University of Dhaka. I graduated in 2012, and then I moved to Eastern Bank Limited. I joined that bank as a management trainee, and when I uh, finished working there in 2017, I was a manager in the treasury department where I managed fixed income securities portfolio and other investment related work. And then I moved to academia again. I started my MBA in research option in finance. So I thought I didn't have prior research experience. So I thought having a master's or MBA in research option would be a good starting point for getting into my PhD program. So I completed my MBA in research option in finance. And then in 2021, uh, I started my PhD in finance. So the slides that probably needs some edit. So in 2021, I started my PhD in finance at Mississippi State University. I completed that in 2025 this year. And immediately after completing my PhD in July 2025, I joined as an assistant professor of finance at Troy University. So that's kind of brief introduction of me.
So, okay, over to you, Abdur Rahman again.
Thank you. So let's start with the options that we have in US in terms of higher education. So we have master's option or that comes with a couple of sub options. Let's say we can go for thesis based masters, and sometimes it could be course based. So in thesis based masters, we usually have from the perspective of Mississippi State University, we need to complete almost 8 courses and 6 credit hours of master's credit. So with the courses, you will also have to complete a thesis. But on the course-based masters, all the things that you need to do is complete a list of courses. For example, as I said, we need to complete 8 courses in thesis-based. For course-based, we need to complete 10 courses. And we don't need to work for any thesis in that case. Sometimes we may need to work on projects based on the requirements of the university, but this is the core thing that we usually do in masters. So I'd also like to ask Dr. Nurul Islam if you could give us a little bit overview in terms of MBA in US.
Yeah, sure. So for business students especially, there are two options. One can start MS in different majors of business, or they can also go for MBA in the USA. So there are also like thesis-based and course-based system for business students, especially those who are trying to get into PhD program in future. It would be nice to have thesis-based masters, because that will open some opportunities for PhD program as well. So that's kind of for master's program. And for PhD, we have same thing, research based, but we don't have project based in case of business. So Dr. Rahman can go ahead, and then I can add something more there.
Sure, thank you. So for PhD, as you mentioned, there are a couple of options as well. The most and highly extensive option is the research-based. So PhD is a heavily extensive degree that we need to get involved in research work. And usually it takes around 4 to 6 years. Sometimes if you have already masters from a US universities, then you can transfer some credits from your masters. So you need to take less courses, then in some cases you can complete the PhD in 3 years as well. but most of the time it takes 4 years. And the timeline for masters usually goes for 1.5 to 2 years. If you have participated in a Thrive in 5 program, so Thrive in 5 is kind of, let's say you completed bachelor and masters from the same university in US, then there's an option that you can complete couple of masters or graduate courses during your bachelor's, and then you can use them towards your master's degree requirements. So in that case, you can complete master's early as well. So these are the two basic options from master's and PhD. If we can go forward in next slide. So the couple of steps that we need to take before we go for application. First of all, we need to identify our research interests. Let's say my research interest in the intersection between mathematical optimization and machine learning. So you also need to come up with some area that you are mostly interested in. So how do we find interest? This is a very basic question that we usually ask when we are in undergrad. We are very confused what to do and what is the current trend. So the best thing is to do is talk with your seniors. What is the future trend? Where is the next direction going? Maybe in next decade or next couple of decades. Then you can also think about what are the things that you are excited about during your undergrad degree. Yeah, there could be some courses that excites you the most. Then those are the things that you may need to focus on. And you can also ask your undergrad thesis advisor if you were working on a thesis-based undergrad degree. You can talk with them, figure out what could be the potential direction that you can go forward. Then when you have some identified research area, this is the time you need to get involved in some kind of research. It doesn't have to be so extensive, but if you could have some kind of experience in research, that really helps in graduate degrees. Let's say you can work on a conference paper during your undergrad, or maybe you can convert your thesis to a journal article, maybe near to a good journal article. So that would help a lot. Then the third thing that we need to do is shortlist the universities that we want to apply for. And this could be another challenge. One of the things that we usually do is try to look into the global ranking of that university. There are a couple of websites for that as well. First off, one example would be the US News ranking, which is used by most of the students. And also you can rank the universities based on your research interest. For example, in some universities, maybe manufacturing is the most strong department, or maybe mechanical engineering is the most strong department. So you can focus on the reputation of that particular department if you are looking for mechanical engineering degrees. Now, there are some other priorities as well. For example, let's say you don't like to be in a colder area. So in some areas in the northern part of US, the weather could be very harsh. So you need to figure out whether you are whether you want to go to that region or not. So based on your interest and your priorities, we need to come up with some list. That list could involve, let's say, the top three, maybe based on the most optimistic option that you might have. You can also categorize them based on the most optimistic, the moderate universities that you can maybe get into, and some universities could go into your list where you are pretty much sure that you get the admission. So categorize them according to these three options. Then there are some also key components such as statement of purpose. About that, we will talk about a little bit later. We also need to craft or ask for letter of recommendation. And there are some exam requirements, for example, GRE, TOEFL, or IELTS. I'll also talk about them in a bit. Then the last thing that you need to do is contact professors with your genuine interest. You can send out emails to the professors if they're looking for any students in for their lab or for their research group. Before I jump into the next slide, I would like to ask the other panelists if they have anything to add here.
Yeah, I'd like to add some points from business perspective. So for business students, I think the most important thing to consider before application is to what is your end goal? You want to go for academia or to industry? That is very important before moving to the USA. So if your objective is to go to academia, then you should consider having some research experience back home before even application. That will help a lot in getting into the program. So I think that that is important. And also for recommendation letters, I think there are many students who are working in industry right now back home in Bangladesh or some other countries maybe. So I think you should consider taking recommendation letter from your employer or from your line manager, I know at least one from your professor back there. And also the business programs are more centralized. So unlike other programs where you need to contact directly to professors for your funding, here the programs are centralized. So you don't need to do that. Yes, after applying centrally, then you can approach a professor showing your interest. But I think, yeah, you need to consider that one.
Yeah, I think I would probably just add one point. So I think in terms of pursuing a PhD, the number one factor would be who you want to work with. So in the most ideal case, if you can identify some of the work from some of the universities or some lab, especially pretty early, then you can maybe reach out to the professors via email, show your genuine interest, and if you have some experience that aligns with the ongoing work, that would be the most ideal case. The reason being, since PhD is a long-term aspect, so I guess for your future career, the impact of the advisor is going to be the one of the major factors. So it's very important to understand pretty early where you want to go and like who you want to work with. So I would say maybe that's it.
Just last point to add, for business students and others, I think we do not have the professor to whom we will work with in future. So we first go to the program, and then based on after taking like first 2 years of coursework, we can decide which professor we'd like to work with in future. So that's kind of slightly different for other students. I just wanted to make sure for this.
Thank you, everybody. So let's little bit talk about more detail into the components of application. First of all, the undergraduate academic records, the transcript and certificate is the requirement that you need to submit throughout the application process at some point. But during what we can do right now when you're in undergrad is to focus on getting your grades a little bit up. Try as much as possible to get your CGPA uh, to higher marks. So I cannot stress more on this point. Maybe sometime we hear this kind of thing. Well, CGPA doesn't matter in case of undergrad studies, but there is no option that I can stress more. This is very important. People would look into your score at first when they look into your application. The second thing is that if you could have a little bit of prior research exposure, that would be very valued. As I said earlier, a very small or small scale conference article doesn't hurt to have in your profile. Even if you cannot publish anything, maybe some course projects that you have worked on, that could be a very good experience to share when you are having interview with some potential future advisors. Another most important element is the statement of purpose. So this is usually reviewed by the admission committee or the graduate office. So you need to show how and why you get interested in their program. How can this program help you to shape your career, and how can you contribute to the overall program that they have? So this is both ways. You are contributing to the program and you're also benefiting from their program. So you need to show how this work. Then we also need to have a couple of recommendation letters. As Dr. Nurul Islam mentioned, you can have recommendation letter from either your advisors from the university or from some professors that you have worked with, or you can also have recommendation letter from the industry managers under whom you have completed some work, so that they can say something about you. And unlike in Asian countries, in US, these recommendation letters are very much valued. People would really look into your letters, what other people are saying about you. Then another key component is the GRE or GMAT score. So currently in some universities, this may be required, and in some universities, this is waived. Although they have mentioned that this is a requirement, but if you have good academic score, maybe good CGPA, sometimes the university waives that. And there are some universities who already waived it. They do not require this score anymore. But the requirement is about TOEFL or IELTS score, because if you are participating in any English language based course or program, you need to have some command over English. So you need to take this English language tests. And if we talk about the scores for TOEFL, I guess having the cutoff mark is very important, and for also that also applies for the IELTS. So if you are looking for a TA position, I guess a little bit of higher score on the speaking section would help a lot. Other than that, let's ask the other panelists if they want to add something to my points.
Yeah, so maybe I just want to add one more point. So like one of the major target for this webinar, at least for me, is to convey the message that GPA absolutely matters. So as Abdur Rahman mentioned, right? So we often hear during our undergrad studies that, okay, GPA doesn't matter, you might compensate through some other stuff. But when you apply for these PhD programs or maybe master's programs, the number one defining factor, I would say, is your GPA. So it's absolutely like a priority for, I guess, everyone of those who want to pursue this type of degrees, to make sure that their undergrad GPAs are as high as possible. And regarding the GRE and TOEFL, yes, there are maybe a lot of universities who are waiving the requirement for GREs. But if you have some time, or if you have planned early and planned well, you may very well like sit for those exams. And if you have good scores, then you can still send it out to them. So like for some cases, if you think that your undergrad GPA is not well enough, there are other ways to compensate. But I would say, okay, there is nothing really that substitutes a good GPA. So yeah, so that is maybe my 2 points.
Yeah, for business students and others, I think GPA is really important, but just to motivate students having lower GPA, it doesn't mean the end of the story for business student at least. I have seen so many students, they were struggling back home, they were failing in some of the courses, and then they somehow managed to graduate from their educations back home. But there is a good way of compensating that through your higher score in GRE or GMAT score. And I can tell you, though some programs mention that GRE or GMAT is waived, but having GRE and GMAT helps a lot. Let's say you have 50 candidates applied for the position, but 3 or 4 have GRE or GMAT score. Although they mention they do not require that or waive that requirement, but when they screen out the candidates from the for the position, they always prioritize candidates having GRE or GMAT scores for business students. And I work closely with my PhD advisor, who is the graduate coordinator in the PhD program. Sometimes he asked me, Nurul, can you see these? And what do you think of this candidate after? So I looked at his approach. He said, although the GRE or GMAT can be well, but having those really helps. So I think to motivate those having lower GRE score, lower GPA, please, you can still get into any program in the USA with GRE or GMAT higher score. And I would like to mention one more thing about recommendation letters. I get a lot of like emails or some sort of communication from students back home. They ask me whether I can provide them recommendation letter. So remember, you have to have some kind of working experience, or you took some courses with the professor. Only then it will be helpful to have that recommendation letter and can help you in this way. So don't ask recommendation letter from any professor where you never taken any courses, or any person you never worked with. So I think those are very important things to remember. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we got a question just related to GRE that I wanted to address right now. So the question is, what if some universities specifically mention that they are not going to look into the GRE score, even if the applicants send it? So it's really obvious they will not review it anymore. So when they mention it, then they're not going to review it. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about funding opportunities. So in terms of funding, we usually have three types of assistantship: research assistantship, teaching assistantship, and sometimes we have graduate assistantship, or we sometimes call it service assistant. So the most important are these two, research and teaching. So to avail these research assistantship positions, let's talk about it a little bit. It depends mostly on the faculty who is going to offer you the position. Sometimes it could also be offered centrally, but that's very rare. But most of the time it's offered by some faculty. Now, what we need to do is we need to reach to the faculty member early as we can, because these positions are uh, sometimes open immediately, and they are looking for a very good match if they can find. So if you find that this professor is looking for some student, and you found that your profile matches his research and you are very interested in his work, then this is a very good match, then you should approach it. But sometimes you may find that the professor is looking for someone, but your profile doesn't match, or maybe he is looking for some skills that you are lacking. It doesn't hurt to reach out to him saying that, hey, I have these skills, but I am open to learn what you want me to have. So even if you are lacking some research skills that he is needing, um, always reach out. So that would increase your chances of getting in. Because I believe that PhD or master's, these two degrees, they are about training. So when we bring someone, we will start from the beginning, even if you have some knowledge on that. Then funding is usually project based. So in US, we apply for funds in different funding agencies, and those funds come from sometimes federal, sometimes state level funds. And it is a best idea to reach out to the faculty member if he have any funding based on those projects. Sometimes the project requirement could be a little bit stricter. For example, some projects require the students to be permanent residents. Sometimes it could be related to completely US citizen. So for those openings, the faculty is supposed to mention that in the flyer that he maybe post in LinkedIn or other places. but most of the time, the opportunities are open to international students. And yeah, and one more thing I wanted to mention is that where to find this kind of opportunities. Usually the first resource would be the website of the university, and if you go to the faculty list, then you would find the faculty profile. Sometimes the faculty has their own website linked to that university page. If you go to that personal website of the professor, you will find some kind of opening. Sometimes there might not be any opening because all of the funding position have been filled out. Another resource could be LinkedIn. If you are connected to some industrial engineering professional, for my case, they sometimes share, maybe one of my colleague is looking for some student and they might ask me to share their flyer. So sometimes we share it. So LinkedIn could be a very good resource to find research assistantship positions. And what works well? Well, the most important thing is that you maintain good communication. And when you have a little bit of interview opportunity with the faculty, then try to build a good understanding with him. Be, be professional as much as you can, and try to show that you are open to learning. If you say that, well, I do not have this skill, but I can learn. If you give me this opportunity, then they will be very happy with that. But there are some red flags as well. Currently, due to the extensive use of generative AI, especially ChatGPT and other tools, we see that sometimes you may not put that much effort to craft an email. Or I mention email because email is the main communication between the professor and the student. Sometimes there is a lack of little bit of interest when we apply for maybe 200 to 500 professors, then you get less chance to work on the emails. So I would encourage to be more professional from that perspective. I'm not discouraging using generative AI, but sometimes they might feel that this is a lack of interest or less interest. And we have to be very professional when we talk with someone. Let's say the professor mentioned you that, can you do this for me? Then we can decide whether we can go forward or not. Then you need to work on those things according to his guidance, according to the guidelines that he provided. If you do not understand anything, if you do not know anything, acknowledge that. uh, Showing overqualification and overconfidence sometimes hurts, because as a faculty member, we know our limitation and we also know the limitation of the students. So if any student say that I know everything on this particular area, maybe he is not saying the truth, because everybody has something that he doesn't know. So being true to the professor and true to yourself about your lacking, it's always good so that you can improve yourself. So before I jump into the teaching assistantship position, I would also like to ask the other panelists if they want to add anything.
Yeah, I would like to add some points which are very important for business and other subjects or majors. So first of all, for business and let's say other fields of non-STEM programs such as economics or political finance or maybe some other programs, so those fundings are typically centralized funding. So we do not have a division of RA and TA there. So you just apply for the program centrally, and when you get to the program, then you'll be assigned some works as part of your duties as RA and some as TS. And here, as I said earlier, you do not need to or contact any specific professor here. The only contact person you should contact is the graduate coordinator. So graduate coordinator is the person responsible for maintaining communication or anything. So first thing is to apply for the assistantship if available. So as Dr. Abdur Rahman said, those information are typically available in the website. So they mention whether funding opportunities are available for the program. So make sure before applying to that program whether the funding opportunities are available. Okay. And one more important thing is here, when you see the funding opportunities, apply early, because although they have certain deadline, let's say December 15th, but somebody has applied earlier, let's say in September. If they find a good candidate, uh, then they will offer the assistantship to these candidates. So always prepare to apply early. That is very important. Okay, so those are kind of important things which are different for business and other non-STEM students.
Okay, Ashfaq, do you want to add anything?
I can probably kind of say something from A&M perspective. So the way at Texas A&M things work is specifically for PhDs. So once you join the program, the first year is usually you have to do some sort of a TA-ship. So that funding comes through TA, and then your advisor will start funding you from the second years onward. And I guess one of the main reasons for not getting funding through RA in the first year is because you have to complete some of the core courses, as Abdur Rahman mentioned. So like the number of courses that you have to complete also, I guess, is dependent on the university that you are working at. So at A&M, you need to complete from 6 to 8 courses over the span of 1.5 years, the first 1.5 year. So that is one of the reasons why the professors are not willing to fund you from the start unless they hire somebody from internally. So the way it works is which worked for my case. So I reached out to my professor who I worked with during my PhD. So I sent him an email. I told him, okay, I like your work. I am working on something very similar. So he found it interesting, and then we kind of onboarded from on. So for my case, he kind of championed me. So it's one other program where a professor can champion one student. So the way it works is the student comes to the lab from day one, they work as an RA. But these are, I would say, few exception cases. Usually the way it works is you will have 3 to 4 years of funding through RA, and the first years of funding are typically obtained through TA-ship. So that is most likely the norm. Yeah.
Just one more point, which is very important, I think I should add is, so there are opportunities for RA and TA, I get that, but some students also get like 50% tuition waiver, and they sometimes contact me whether they should move to the US because they have the 50% tuition, they can work on campus and manage that money. I would like to emphasize that it is very hard to study properly if you have funding deficiency, if you have to work outside. When you move here, I think your sole objective should be focused on your study. Okay, not to distract from that work outside. So yes, a lot of universities will try to attract students by offering 50% tuition or maybe 60 or 40. I think you should try to get the assistantship before moving here. So, and if you can get like good GRE or GMAT score, rather than moving here, spending for 1 year working outside, is better to study GRE or GMAT there and get a good score. I think that will be very helpful. I see a lot of students struggle here, both mentally and financially. So please make sure you have the funding before moving here.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point, and I absolutely agree. So I also get a lot of messages asking, okay, so I got some funding, but the funding is not entirely going to cover all the studies. So in that case, what should I do, right? So in that case, I would personally suggest to not jump onto or like say yes to a program or like an offer that is not going to be sufficient for you. What I mean by that, as Nurul mentioned, so you have to have 100% funding. If you don't have that, then you might have to do some on-campus job, which would be extremely difficult during your studies. So you need to be extremely careful. And the other thing is like the health insurance. So in the offer letter, they usually mention whether they're gonna cover the health insurance or not. So from some outsiders, it may not look much, but if you consider some of the state taxes that you have to kind of give from the salary that you receive, the amount of health insurance can be pretty high. So all of these aspects have to be taken into consideration without, I guess, saying yes to an offer. So, yeah.
Thank you for those wonderful points. I wanted to add one more thing. So in Asian countries, we usually have maybe final exams that contains a huge amount of marks towards the overall final grade. But in US, the study pressure is distributed throughout the semester. So if you think about working during the semester, it's that's why we are mentioning that it's really difficult to work on. Anyway, let's move forward. So we also wanted to talk about the teaching assistantship, although we have covered a lot. It usually provided by the department of the college, and it depends on the need from the department as well. So sometimes the department already might have sufficient TA that they are offering to the current students, so they might not offer to the new students. And sometimes we may have opportunities to grab that. And the most important thing that would be key factor for your case is the English speaking score and the overall English language test score. Usually they would like to have something beyond 6.5 in IELTS and beyond 25 in the TOEFL score. But if you have less than that, that doesn't mean that you will not get a TA. In US university, sometimes you have to take another test. This test is about you need to have a certificate from the university that you can work as a TA. So usually that happens when you are assigned for the first time as a TA. So it's about, let's say you need to deliver a lecture or a short lecture, and they will be evaluating based on your performance on that. Okay, and always keep your potential advisor when you communicate with the graduate coordinator. In that way, both are remaining informed about your situation. Okay, let's move forward. How to improve the candidate profile? I'd like to encourage Ashfaq to work on, say something on this.
Yeah, so what we are observing is at least like 4 or 5 years ago, the set of schools that we try to go to versus the set of schools that maybe now the students are trying to go to are much, I mean, they are not the same, right? So what we are seeing is many students are able to go to like really top schools, right? So I wanted to kind of mention like how you can improve your candidate profile in such a way that you can hopefully aim some of the top schools. So as we have already mentioned, the number one factor, in my opinion, and I think in everyone's opinion, is to have a healthy GPA. Higher the better. But obviously, if you don't have a good GPA, there are other ways to compensate for that. One of the ways which worked for me, so I didn't have a high undergrad GPA. So that is one of the reasons why I did an AMS also from BUET, BUET. So during masters, you have one more option to increase your healthy GPA. So that's something that I would encourage a lot of you to think. I would say the number one defining factor for somebody to go to top schools is their how many research experience that they have. So these type of experiences can come in many ways. The first thing is the undergrad thesis. So everyone, I guess, at least in the STEM field, have to work on a thesis. So make sure that you take your thesis very seriously. So usually, if you want to pursue a PhD right after undergrad, this undergrad thesis is the only, most likely the only research option that you will have. So you need to be able to do something so that you can talk something about it, right? So what you have learned, what was the hypothesis in your thesis, and what were the experiments that you have conducted, and what were the outcomes, right? So yeah, and one other thing that you can also think is there are some ongoing projects that are being done by some senior students. So maybe in your second or third year of undergrad program, you can start off joining those projects and have some experiences, right? And one more thing is like any publication counts. Yeah, I mean, yes, but I would say like try to have those publications in the Q1 journal, because if you have a publication but it's not in Q1 journal, maybe in like NBP, I'm not going to say any names, but if it's not in Q1 journal, then most cases it may not look good for your CV if you are trying to go to top schools. And one thing that I would encourage a lot is to have the habit of reading good articles. So you can go to online and search for the topic that is of interest to you, and you can find many influential papers, right? So these reading the habit of these influential papers actually help you in two ways. The first is how to write a good paper, which is important. The other way is how can you do some good experiments and obtain good results. So those are things. And one more thing is, if you don't have good the opportunity to good research yourself, you can still join some ongoing projects that are happening in your school, or maybe write some good maybe some articles. And one more point that I wanted to mention is starting to learn the basic research tools, right? So once you start doing this research, you will know that you need to learn how to write well, because writing is like half of your entire PhD or master's. You need to be able to write your ideas or thought process very effectively to advisors in most cases. You need to have these skills which are going to help you through the writing of the articles. So how to write articles, there are many online courses on that, so that might be useful. So for example, in my case, edX was a platform that extensively used to learn some online skills. And since now we have these so many opportunities, so I think if you are enthusiastic and hardworking, you can definitely compensate for any skills that you may feel is lacking. And one more thing is, if you have the opportunity to get involved in extra curricular activities, those will look good on your CV. So for example, doing some science Olympiads or engaging yourself through some coding competitions, maybe some debate. So these add those X factors in your CV, right? And yeah, and maybe one more thing that I wanted to personally mention is, if you want to send emails to your potential advisors, do it. I don't think it hurts, right? If you are able to compose genuine emails, if you have some experience that you have been working on during undergrad and masters, and if you have a way to kind of link your experience to the ongoing works of those professors in the lab, most likely they are going to read your email and they are going to send a reply. So that can open like a huge opportunity for you. So I would personally say, if you have the time, if you plan well, send those emails. And finally, one way to compensate for your profile, if you don't have healthy GP or maybe like top of the line, is to strive to have those test scores. So on a very rough or like crude way of saying is having like this GRE quant score is one of the major numbers, I'd say, that is looked at. So like if you can have like 165 plus, which would be excellent. And also in TOEFL, like 110 is like maybe 8 in IELTS. So these are some of the other test scores by which you can compensate your GPA. But if you want to target top schools, I think you should plan ahead and have as much of a research experience as possible, and jump onto any opportunities of writing good articles. Yeah, so that's pretty much my take.
Okay, if anybody has to add anything, then we can add or maybe move forward.
You can move forward.
Okay. Okay, so application timeline. So most of the school usually starts with, let's say we're applying for a fall admission. It starts at the end of the previous year. Let's say we're applying for the fall 2026. We would try to start as early as November or December of this year. So we need to check the university deadlines. So always, I would encourage you to create an Excel file or any list that you might have to list out those priority dates. Some universities have, let's say, final due dates. Some of them might have some priority dates as well. So I would encourage you to use those priority date as the deadline. And yeah, when you are crafting your SOP, Ashfaq have mentioned, I think, two links that you can find it very resourceful, especially the Stanford link, this one. So I guess this slide would be shared with you all so that you can use this link. And one more thing to mention is that SOP is not something you write on one sitting. We usually encourage the students to, let's say, go over this SOP multiple times to think over, reflect over their thought, and try to figure out what you're genuinely interested in and what would you really want to do. Then when you are asking for recommendation letters, you have to understand that the recommenders that you are asking for, they might be very busy within their schedule, and you are not the only person who is asking for the recommendation letters. So give plenty of time for them to craft and send the recommendation letters. Try to reach out to them as early as possible, maybe 1 month or 2 months earlier, so that they can have plenty of time to work on this. Ashfaq, do you want to add anything to this?
I would just want to add maybe one comment or maybe one point here. So like many professors may ask for draft when you ask for SOP for LL or site. So in that case, you still need some time to prepare your draft. So I would encourage everyone to start early. So if you have a fall admission deadline of December 15, you should have your test scores ready, maybe some version of SOP ready at least a month early, so that that 1 month you can search for schools, maybe labs, professors, and then tailor your application based on that institution. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So one point to mention for business students, let's say your deadline is December 15th. So you should absolutely apply as early as possible.
Right.
But remember, sometimes it happens for many students in real life. What I've seen is some students might not have a good scores by that deadline. So what you can do, whatever scores you have, you can just go ahead and apply. And then still, maybe at the end of the December or January, you can try to appear for the GRE or GMAT again, and if your score improves, so you can just update the scores later. I mean, they really appreciate this approach as well. So it will increase your chances as well.
Okay, let's move forward. So what are the opportunities after you complete maybe master's or PhD in US? So there are basically three things that we can do. First of all, if you completed master's, then you can apply for OPT, which is an optional practical training. So OPT is issued for initially 1 year, and if you are from STEM background, then it can be extended up to 2 more years. Now, within this period of time, initially you are given 60 days of grace period, and within this 60 days, you need to have some job in your hand that you can start with. And what are these jobs? So jobs in US could be couple of types. Initially, we can start with maybe industry jobs. It could be postdoctoral. It could be research scientist and faculty positions. And outside of US, we can also look into opportunities like in Canada, Europe, and then UAE, Australia. And also we can, there's always option for going back to the home country. And if you already have a residentship, permanent residentship, then you can also do business. So without the permanent residentship, there is no option that you can do or start business in US. We're not going into deep discussion about the job prospects at this stage, but hopefully if you have chance or if we have chance, we can also talk about that in later stages. Let's move forward. Ashfaq, would you like to talk about this line?
Yeah, I guess due to the interest of time, I'll just briefly mention. So most cases, what happens is after you complete your PhD, you go to some industrial jobs. So specifically for PhDs, the roles can be R&D, scientists, engineers, consulting, startup, business, and many other things, right? And these type of jobs actually span across many different sectors. So I would say the way it works is you should start thinking about applying to these roles about 9 months to 1 year prior to the date when you are expected to graduate. So in my case, I graduated 2 months early, right? So I started applying in maybe October 22 to 24. So it was roughly like 9-10 months before my graduation. So it worked for me. So I would say like plan ahead, plan well, and have maybe 9 months to 1 year of leeway time to start applying. So usually for industrial positions, you don't need a CV. In many cases, you need a CV, but in industrial cases, you need 2-page resume. So you need to spend a lot of time. How can you most impactfully kind of condense all of the aspects of your profile in 2 pages, right? And one more thing I would like to encourage everyone to have an active LinkedIn profile. Having your personal website helps to attract the recruiters. Maybe if you have some coding experience, have your own portfolio, or GitHub is extremely useful. For internships, in many PhD groups, the advisors may or may not encourage you to have internships. But if you have the opportunity to pursue an internship, do it. And I personally think internship helps. Okay, and in that case, you may even use the main connections of your advisors to land the first internship position. The reason being, once you have one internship, maybe from the next onwards, you will not need any other connections, right? So you'll be able to know a lot of people. From then you can maybe build on top of it. The interview processes for these industrial positions have two components. One is the technical and the other is the behavioral. By behavioral, we mean they want to understand how are you as a person when you work in a team. Are you able to do this teamwork type of thing, right? How can you resolve some conflicts and many other aspects? Okay, maybe the main point I want to highlight, as Abdur Rahman already mentioned, so once you come to your PhD or master's program on an F1 visa and you are done with your studies, afterwards you will have these OPT programs, as Abdur Rahman mentioned. So right after F1, you will have an 1 year of OPT program. You can use that to get to any in industry positions you want. And after that 1 year is finished, you will have a 2 year of extension. Now, ideally, you would want to have either national interest waiver or maybe PR or green card by this timeline. The main reason being H-1B is pretty tricky at this point, right? So we are hearing a lot of news, although these type of sanctions are not imposed yet. But I personally would recommend, if you have the opportunity to apply for the PR during your PhD program, do it by all means. And for applying to green cards, you need an MS degree or maybe 4 years of working experience. So what worked for my case, since I had an MS from BUET, I was able to use that MS degree while applying for the green card application. So that's one way how a master's degree from Bangladesh or any other Asian country can be useful towards applying for green card. The other way is if you are enrolled in a PhD program, maybe after 2 years you will have an en route MS degree, right? You can also use that degree towards applying for the green card or national interest waiver. So in that case, I would say if you are planning to stay in the US, it is extremely important to have the green card as early as possible. So for that, you need either 4 or 5 years of work experience or an advanced degree in the case of masters. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Okay, I think we're running out of time for the presentation. Let's move quickly forward. How do we prepare ourselves from PhD program to go for academia? Dr. Nurul Islam, would you like to talk on this?
Yeah. So from PhD to academia, I think the opportunity is very high. I mean, you can easily, when you complete your PhD, you can get a job in academia, especially from business and others, and for all candidates actually. In some cases, some candidates might need to go for postdoc before getting into a permanent position in academia. But for business, I have never seen someone completed like PhD and didn't get a job previously. So that success rate is pretty high, almost maybe 95 to 100%. So here, one important point or aspect is that you have to apply for the academic position like maybe 10 months or 1 year ahead. So here the research is the gold. So the more publication really helps here. But for business students or economics or some other subjects, even if you do not have publication, if you have good research pipeline that you can show you work during the PhD program, you can also get the job easily. And one aspect also helps having connections with the professors in different institutions, especially if you present your papers in different conferences and build the network or somewhere professors know who you are, what you are working with. That helps a lot here. And I think for business students, going into industry is not typically common after completing PhD. So if you have a plan for industry, PhD might not be a good option. Rather, going for MBA would be a better option here. So yes, for PhD to academia, I think that is important. And last point I would like to mention is that before moving to the USA, you have to make sure what you want. Do you want to work in the academia or you want to go to industry? So, but I have seen a lot of students who didn't have any plan for academia. Let's say they planned for industry, came here for masters, but they couldn't manage the job after completing the masters. So then they moved to the PhD. Okay, so having a good GRE or GMAT score here again, very important. If you have good GRE or GMAT score, you can get into a master's program and then can easily move to PhD as well. Otherwise, sometime after completing masters, some students struggle because they need to appear for GRE or GMAT again. So make sure you have good GRE, GMAT score before moving. Yes, that's all I wanted to throw.
Okay, thank you. And along the way, I wanted to mention that if you are looking for a teaching position, having a little bit of teaching experience helps a lot. Sometimes the university give the opportunity to teach maybe an undergrad course during the summer or maybe other semesters, but sometimes you may not get that opportunity if the university has a lot of lecturers available in the department. But you can always get an experience, let's say a TA-ship. Now you may ask, I always work as a research assistant. How do I get the TA-ship opportunity? Well, talk with your advisor and you could work out something.
I also last thing I would like to add is a lot of business students they think that they should have like some kind of teaching experience back home to work as an assistant professor maybe in future. So you don't need to do that for PhD if you're planning to go for academia from business. Even if you don't have any experience as a teacher back home, you still can go to the PhD program. And once in typically in business, when you are in PhD program, after completing first 2 years of coursework, you are typically assigned to teach some undergraduate courses. So that builds your portfolio or some kind of exposure in teaching, and that helps a lot. So I just wanted to add that one.
Well, there are some elements that you need to prepare when you are going for an academia job application. Again, we're not going to discuss this, but I just wanted to have a list that you can follow. One thing is we need a research statement. Research statement is something that you craft to reflect what research that you have performed earlier and what you are going to do if you join this department or university. Teaching statement is something that reflects your philosophy about teaching, what you think, how would you teach, what have you taught earlier, and what courses that you are interested in teaching in future. A cover letter is, as the name means, it would include why you are applying for this job and why they should hire you. And you also need to have list of references. If you are applying for academia, this list of references are very important. We need to choose wisely who we put in the reference list. And I wanted to highlight this one. If you are looking for some academic position, there are opportunities that you can pursue. Let's say sometimes the university offers programs like we are having a program of 3 months or 6 months where we would teach the potential PhD candidate about how to apply for academic positions. So we call it sometimes future faculty program or preparing for future faculty program. So just look out for these kind of opportunities, and I think you will be trained well with this kind of program. Yeah, I think that's all from the PhD to academia perspective. Do we have anything else? Okay, we don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you, all three of you. I think we can move into the question and answer section. So I see already some of you provided questions in the chat as well as in the Q&A section. So we will go by one by one, but please keep asking the question. If you find something that you haven't understand from the speakers, yeah, use this opportunity to kind of ask the question. You can also raise the hand, and then we can kind of unmute you, and then you can ask the question live as well. So the first question that I want you to kind of reflect is this. So does the acceptance rate vary if I apply centrally versus approaching specific professors? Who wants to answer that?
Dr. Nurul Islam, would you go first?
Yes, for business students, you do not need to directly contact any professor, as I mentioned earlier. Just first apply for the position or for the program, and then you can just briefly send an email to the graduate coordinator saying that you have applied for these positions and you have this experience briefly. So it would be great if you can, or you're very interested in the program. So that's the only thing you need to do. And for master's program, same thing. For PhD, same thing. Both are on the same page. But typically for PhD, sometime you might have a Zoom interview or some kind of virtual interview with a set of professors. So you need to be very professional there. Yeah.
Thank you. Ashfaq, would you like to add something from STEM perspective?
I think if a university has this central admission policy, then just apply centrally. In that case, you may not need to spend too much of a time trying to reach out to professors. I don't think it will hurt your chances. But if you have time, then I would always encourage people to reach out to professors. I would consider it as an added bonus. So maybe even if you have a central admission policy, you reach out to some professor, he or she may like you, and then they may pull some internal strings which may influence the admission process in some way. But I'm not so sure. But if you don't have time, then don't sweat on it. If it's a central admission policy, I don't think it is a must that you have to do. Yeah. So just applying is fine.
Okay, yeah. But if it is not centralized, then it's always good to apply or reach out to the specific professor. It really enhances the chances.
Right.
If you have a good reputation or good communication with the professor, then he would recommend you to the admission committee. And when a professor usually recommends someone, the admission
Right.
committee doesn't decline that.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This is a question about emails. So one person is writing that they got some advice from a senior that to write 40 to 50 emails in a day to the professors. How actually should they do it? Like write a lot of emails to the professor because they are getting some rejections as well through the emails and somebody also not responding. So what should be like their approach when they are emailing professors? How many emails that should write? Because I can give you a perspective from the emails that I received in my university from the students or prospective PhD students. I feel that they write a central email to probably 10 to 12 professors in the department, and they only change probably their subject area. So the proposal that they are sending or the CV they are sending, they don't have anything to do with my subject area, but I receive an email from the students. And normally my response is to not to respond to those emails that actually didn't go through my profile and kind of care to kind of customize it to my profile, my profile. So what is the kind of the method for writing emails to professors, and when should we do it? How many should we do it?
Ashfaq, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question, and there is no single answer to this. So, but one rule of thumb is if you send out this type of emails, like mass email is what you call, like you have a central body, you just change the professor's name and send out as many as possible. That is most likely not going to work. Maybe just even once, right? So the way you should approach is to work hard. By work hard, I mean you go to the website, you try to learn what the professor is doing, try to see how your prior experience or your ongoing experience is going to be linked or connected to that project. Maybe in your email, if you can mention specifically what articles from that advisor or like that professor you have gone through, what you found most interesting from that article, and if you have some genuine question that you would like him or her to clarify. So in that, I would say is for sure going to attract the attention of the professor. If you don't spend time to go through the projects or maybe go through one or two articles, then and just send out these random emails, I don't think it's going to work. And one more thing is, I think the person who asked the question mentioned something about sending 40 or 50 emails a day. You don't need to do that, right? So that's a lot of numbers to send every day. So just instead of doing that, try to put in your work, learn more, do some research, go through the articles, and then and maybe you even can pose some project yourself. You say, okay, I read your article, this is the theme of work that you're doing right now. I was thinking, based on my experience, how can I extend it? So the advisors who receive this type of email with maybe new ideas, right? So I think the number one main defining factor in an email is whether you are giving them the flavor that you have gone through gone through their website, and also if is there a way to extend his or her project in that way. So yeah, like every email has to be tailored to whoever you want to send it to.
And also, do not ask any question in email that is already there in the website. That will go against you, absolutely. So
Right.
make sure you do your research, Look at what are the information there, and don't unnecessarily ask any question to the professor. And always try to write a brief email, because professors are very busy here, so they don't have time to read all the writing there. So make sure doing that. For business, you don't need to do that. But yes, after applying for the program, just reach out to the graduate coordinator, only person.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, that's good. I think Limon already touched about it, that the word limit. But as he said, is it should be as brief as possible, because of course the professor not receiving the email from you, they probably are receiving from like thousands other students. So yeah, as brief as possible and as concise and as targeted as possible. Another question is actually goes into the low GPA thing. So one person is asking, he has a publication in the Q1 journal, but he has a very low CGPA due to his sickness. So can actually he or she get a PhD opportunity in the USA? And he completed a Master's of Science in Bangladesh.
Yeah, I think we already kind of touched upon these aspects. Yes, so if you have an undergrad, like a low GPA in your undergrad, there are ways to compensate for that, right? So we mentioned, like, I think you also have a master's degree from Bangladesh, so that helps. And you also have a Q1 journal publication, so that definitely helps. Now maybe try to get a good test score, and then yeah. So one thing is, once you send out these applications, they will review the entire package, right? So if you have a low GPA and if you have some other factors which are working towards your admission, so I think in general it will look good on you. So just having a low undergrad GPA is not a killer, is what I'm saying.
I would also like to add here for non-STEM students. I know a lot of students do not have good GPA and they want to pursue higher education. For business and others non-STEM programs, I think you absolutely have very high possibility of going for PhD or masters, even if you have low GPA. The first criteria is you should have a good GRE or GMAT score. Now, what is a good GRE GMAT score? Again, you have to look at the website. They mention typically the average GRE or GMAT score for successful candidates into the program. So look at those. So don't worry about the low GPA score. You can still pursue higher education in the US.
So another person asks, I think this question is already answered, but I can also kind of retell it. So is it possible for undergrad in Bangladesh to reach out to foreign professors to build connections and get involved in their research? Has anyone done this before? It seems like a great way to gain experience, start getting in touch with professors for future higher studies. So it's not about like PhD studies, but it's like before even they are going to a PhD study, they want to connect to a professor in US to kind of build research connections.
Yeah, I would like to go first on this. So it's less likely that you would get response from a completely unknown person, because if someone wants to do some research with you, they might need to have some little bit of background or familiarity with you. But what we can do is we can reach out to someone, let's say from our same country, or someone we have known through some other connections. Maybe we have met just once, maybe we haven't met, but let's say I'm from Bangladesh, and if any student from Bangladesh reach out to me about, hey, I have this research experience and I see that you are also working on this area, can you include me to one of your projects? Now, there is an inclination from my perspective. Well, this is from my home country. Can I do some maybe help for these students? So there is a chance out there. But let's say I'm from some European country and you're from Bangladesh and you send an email to me, there is a less likely chance of getting response from that perspective. But I wouldn't say that you shouldn't do that. Just go for it. It depends on the situation of the professor. Maybe he's looking for someone who could do the job, but he doesn't have the fund for that. Then he would definitely pursue that.
Okay, so going back to the next question. So can you share something on STEM or non-STEM degrees on job sector and extension of visa? Is there a difference in that, like the non-STEM and STEM for extension of visa or visa after the completion of the degree?
Yes. So for STEM programs, you can extend the OPT after 1 year for 2 more additional years. But for non-STEM degrees, the OPT is just for 1 year. You cannot extend it for 2 additional years.
And also, nowadays, a lot of business programs are STEM, I see. So let's say you have the opportunity to go to two programs. One is STEM, one is non-STEM. So from that context, going to the STEM program will be better because it will give you 2 more years opportunity and you never know, you might need that in future. So yeah, look for that information.
Yeah, sure. Before we jump into another question, I have this question in mind that I want to ask myself and answer that. The question is, should we go for a master's or a PhD? Does applying for PhD enhances our chance of getting admission instead of master's? So this is one of the universal questions that we face a lot of time. So I would say that from the funder perspective, as an assistant professor, I would say that when we draft our proposals for funding agencies, we usually have budget for, let's say, 2 PhD students, just as an example, and maybe one master students. Sometime we may draft proposals with only for one PhD students. We do not have uh, the fund for the master student. So it depends on the project that the professor is working on and the project that he is hiring for. But most of the cases, the PhD student has the higher chance of getting funded because when professors look for students, they want a little bit of longer commitment from the students so that they can train the students in the first year and get maybe good feedback or good output from him in the subsequent years. But for masters, I wouldn't say that there is no chance, but there are a little bit less chance compared to the PhD opportunities. I'm not sure if Ashfaq would like to add anything on that.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Abdur Rahman. So, like, if you apply for PhD positions, I personally think that your chance of getting an admission is higher, just simply because the amount of funding for PhD is much more than for masters. So, from our field, it's almost certain that one needs to come to the US for PhD programs. So we have rarely seen people getting full funded masters opportunity in the US. So I mean, yeah. So in that case, if you are planning for PhD, I think it's the safer route. And if we, I mean, I think one other component in the question was whether you want to do masters or PhD. So I share two links, right? So the second link gives a very good answer. Like, should you pursue masters versus PhD? I think it depends on you in some sense. You need to do some soul searching, like what do you actually want to achieve from this degree, right? So stuff like that, yeah.
Okay, so
Thank
we
you.
are kind of in like short in time, so I will kind of choose some of the question for you to understand. Sorry, you to answer. So, so what are the possibilities of applying to the US university with only IELTS score without taking a GRE? Can you answer very briefly?
So if you are applying for the university, you need to understand the requirements for that particular university. If they have a requirement for GRE, then you must need to have that. But if they are willing to waive that or they do not need that, then it always answers your question. And for IELTS and Alternatively, we can also go for TOEFL. If the university accepts IELTS score, then we're good to go. And most of the cases they do. But if they do not, then TOEFL with the to-go option for you.
This is an interesting question. I think we will take this question as the last question. So does bringing spouse as a dependent affect how professors view me?
No, that doesn't.
In some cases, I think professor encourages having a spouse, families. So a lot of professors are very family friendly. So I think they do not discourage for sure. Most cases, there could be an exception though.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't reduces your chance, and it basically enhances. But we cannot make sure that this wouldn't impact the visa availability, you know. So sometimes including spouse as a dependent actually increases your cost in the I-20. So I-20 is required for your visa. So if you have a deficit just because of adding your spouse in the I-20, we cannot say anything about that. It depends on the DSO or the officer who is working on your visa application. So they might want to check if you have the ability to cover the deficit expenses, or you may need to show some additional funds for that. But that does not lead to a declination of your visa.
That goes back to my question on that. So when you have spouse, do not think about moving to the US with deficiency in your funding. That means 50%, 60%, because your life will be very difficult in future. So make sure you have.
I think, yeah, with that note, I think we should end this session. Thank you, Ashfaq, Abdur Rahman, and Nurul Islam for a very informative session. And I can actually see a lot of difference in applying for a PhD position or a master's position in the US compared to in the UK or in the European universities. And I hope those who have joined this discussion today, that give you a kind of a good start to think about how to think about when you're applying to the US university. Because one thing I would like to say, actually, what I see in UK or in Europe, the scholarship and funded positions are kind of decreasing a lot, especially for international students. But this is my assumption that US probably are not there yet. That it is still possible if you to go do for US if you have a good kind of test score like GRE and GMAT score, even with a low CGPA, to go to US and for a master's or a PhD studies. So I hope it helps. So thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you also Limon, Ashfaq, and Abdurrahman. So we
Just
end
a
the
quick
webinar.
note before we end.
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
sorry to interrupt. So one student is asking, how do we get to know about the upcoming webinars, if you have any?
Okay, good. So normally, if you registered here, you will get an email for upcoming webinar. So that is for sure. Like if you registered in the webinar and you came in the webinar, you will get an email. And after this webinar, you will also get an email of the recording of the video and the slides that we have shared here. So yeah, you can stay connected with us through that.
Well, thank you for hosting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for